Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the opposition preview here on All for United, and it's a massive game this weekend for United as we travel to Goodison Park to take on an Everton side who really are needing the points for all their own reasons as well. And I'm delighted to be joined by Mike Richards from the UHT podcast, the Unholy Trinity Everton podcast. Mike, a warm welcome to All for United and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to delving further into our woes once again.
It's certainly been a frustrating season for Everton, and it also has been a frustrating season for Manchester United, so I'm sure there'll be plenty of groans and grumbles for the pair of us to talk about. As always, you are watching us live on the channel, so remember to please like and subscribe. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and go and check us out. And do get involved in the comments. We would like to interact with you, so do get your comments up on the show. Mike, just before we delve into the recent match against Burnley, which was last night, give us a little bit of a flavour as to the UHT podcast and how you guys got involved doing such a very good show.
It's about, over 3 years ago now. One of the other lads, Lee, he'd been discussing for quite a while with a couple of us about doing a podcast, and a bit of frustration around sort of what was out there in terms of Everton coverage from the national media, so to speak. And it was more to we all speak pretty well. You know, we're all fairly balanced. We're not too reactive, even in the current climate, which is difficult to not be. I thought we just give it a go and see how we got on. So we started in Marco Silva's reign, and we were going through a difficult time as well at that particular period. And we thought we were the voice of calm almost, and we sort of built up a following, and listeners have increased along the way, and a couple of sponsorship deals later, and we're doing okay. You know, obviously it's never going to be a job for ourselves which pays anything, you know, or takes over from our full-time work, but something that we enjoy doing on a weekly basis. You know, we have some great guests of the fans, so the people from the sporting world who support the Blues. So we enjoy doing what we do.
And ultimately, Everton must mean a heck of a lot to yourself and the rest of the guys in the podcast.
Oh yeah, hugely so. I mean, it's a huge part of our lives. It impacts us massively. You know, we as much as we try and not be too influenced by proceedings on the pitch, it's very, very difficult, certainly at the moment, for it not to really impact you. So as you know, as a football supporter yourself, you know, you celebrate the wins, and they are massive highs, and you commiserate during the lows. And this season has been a season of many, many lows, a lot of upheaval, a lot of problems on and off the pitch, and it's a difficult time at this moment in time to be an Everton fan.
Before we dissect the match last night, which I watched, Burnley against Everton, why did it not work out with Rafa Benitez first and foremost? Because when I saw that move at the start of the season, I was thinking that's a really, really strange move, because obviously he managed Liverpool in the past, and then coming to manage Everton didn't quite sit well with me. As an Evertonian and an Everton fan, what was it like for you?
When the links first appeared, you just thought it was agents doing what agents do, looking to sort of tout the client, get the client out there, and you all thought it was a little bit of hot air, to be honest. And as the links grew stronger, you started to question the sanity of the majority shareholder, Farhad Moshiri, and his decision-making process, and what led him to come to the conclusion that the right man to take us forward after, you know, a pretty successful time in terms of, you know, under Carlo Ancelotti, where we got 59 points last season. It didn't end the season particularly well, but, you know, in that season we went to Anfield and won for the first time since '99. We went to Arsenal, won for the first time in many, many years. You know, we were winning games, albeit behind closed doors, that we hadn't won for years. And, you know, he was very much loved by the Evertonians. He's a grade A manager. He's been there, done that. His son, David Ancelotti, was also a great part of that particular team as well. And we thought, you know, this was the man to take us to Bramley-Moore. So to go from him to Rafael Benitez, obviously the links to our neighbours across the park was never going to sit particularly well. But as a fan, all you can do is back the manager, because if you don't, what's the point? There's no point on starting things off negatively. We've got to back him. We've got to support him and the team and see where it takes us. And we started the season pretty well. We were obviously we came to Old Trafford, got a decent point there on that day with Andros Townsend's goal, and we were in the top four doing okay. And the wheels came off pretty quickly. A lot of things went wrong. There's a lot of things gone on. He was a very stubborn manager. Rafael Benitez always has been, always will be. Very set in his ways. He didn't, what he said went, and if something wasn't working, I don't think he really knew how to change things up. And when you mix that in with obviously who his former employers were, it's a recipe for disaster. It's a perfect storm. And once things start going wrong, then the pressure quite quickly increased. But I think, to be honest, he was probably kept on probably a month too long, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think not having any games over Christmas because of COVID, Newcastle, Burnley games, etc., Leicester, did him a favour and kept him in a job. And the Norwich game away from home was the final straw, and he had to go. But for me, he was kept on too long, and I think if he wasn't kept on quite as long, then I don't think we'd be where we are at this moment in time.
Obviously, Frank Lampard has taken over the reins at Goodison Park. What have you made of Lampard's start? Because, he obviously had the Chelsea job. It was a bit of a sticky period for him at Chelsea, but he did very well in the Championship. Why is it not settled off well for Lampard in the early stages?
The issues at Everton are deep-rooted. I think it's time people started to look at different people. The manager's always the fall guy. And this is not me saying that Rafael Benitez should have got any longer. Like I just said, he should have gone sooner for me. But I think all the time when things don't go right on the pitch, you look at the manager. Now, since David Moyes left, we've gone through so many managers after going from many years of stability with David Moyes. We then moved on to Martinez, who, great first season, had no plan B. The wheels fell off. And then you work your way through your Allardyce, your Koemans, your Silvers, onto Ancelotti. Big Dunk's been in charge for interim periods. David Unsworth's been in charge for interim periods. And, you start to then look, well, it can't always be the manager. It's got to be something else. And I think with Frank Lampard, he came in, he's, a breath of fresh air. I think he speaks particularly well. I think the problems that we've got are bigger than he thought, to be honest. And I think that comes from a boardroom level, the upheaval. Before he even came to the door, the fan protests were ongoing. The fans' protests have gone away in a sense that we're looking to have a little bit of calm so the players can concentrate on keeping us in the Premier League. But the fan protests will be back, whether we stay in the Premier League or not, because Bill Kenwright is, as much as, I think he sees himself as a revered member of the Everton board. Within the fan base, he's not. Farhad Moshiri, as much as he's splashed the cash and backed things up, and listen, the last accounts have shown how much money he's put into the club once again. He's been totally misguided. I think he's got the wrong people around him. I'm sick and tired of mentioning Keir Jackson's name on every single podcast or show that I go on, but he's one of the people in the background who were leading, for me, Farhad Moshiri astray. And there's a lot of issues there. So I think because the problems are so deep-rooted, I don't think bringing in a new manager is always going to rectify things, not quickly anyway. And Frank Lampard has come into a difficult situation, with it being, obviously, he managed Chelsea with, I think, little pressure because they couldn't buy anyone. So he was brought in knowing he had to use the youth, and there was no expectation they were going to win the league and things like that. So he did pretty well. This is a different kind of pressure. You come into a club who cannot afford to drop into the Championship, and it's all being put onto his shoulders. Is he tactically naive? It's too early to say. He's got a decent backroom staff there that should be able to help and guide him anyway. I just think the quality and the confidence of the players at his disposal, as well as the issues at boardroom level and the overall mood going through the club, just aren't helping the situation. So it's been difficult for him to get any kind of consistency. And you saw again last night the confidence is fragile. Mistakes are happening, 2 or 3 times a game that are leading to goals, and that can't be put up for Lampard's door. That's on the players on the pitch.
Yeah, and let's talk about the game last night, because I watched the game because I was wanting to do my homework in preparation for our chat today. I thought Everton dug in really well after going a goal behind. They got 2-1 in front. Richarlison scored 2 very good penalties. Why did it fall apart from the second half onwards? Because at 2-1, Everton had done the hard work. They'd come from behind. It looked like they had, to quote Andy Hinchcliffe on Sky Sports, they'd showed a bit of character. What happened?
I always like to go back to pivotal points in the game, and for me, second half, that Richarlison chance to score his hat-trick where he smashes the ball and hits the post instead of remaining calm and just slotting the ball past the goalkeeper. That's probably the biggest turning point. That goes in, it's game over. So, Burnley aren't coming back from 3-1 down. There's no way that would have happened. But I also think as well, we question the quality that we've got at this moment in time. There's huge weaknesses in that side in terms of quality and ability. We're missing still key players in that side. I mean, I think you're talking about, we're putting in a centre half in Mason Holgate into centre midfield, and with the best will in the world, he's not the best centre half, so certainly he's not going to be the best centre midfielder either. You look at Seamus Coleman. Again, as much as Seamus Coleman is declining, he's twice the right back that John Joe Kenny is. A lot of the troubles came down that right hand side for us. Kenny, with the best will in the world, he leaves it all on the pitch. He's full of effort and endeavour, but the quality's not there. I mean, look at the shot that he had, which led to their third goal. He's shooting from 35 yards out. If you've got something about you, take the ball in, recycle it, let's start again. Don't be smashing the balls. A right back who hasn't never scored in his whole career. So decision making, quality is not there, concentration levels aren't there. I think confidence is so, it's on a knife edge with us in the game. You can feel the nerves. I'm sitting there watching the game. I'm a nervous wreck, because I know that the players, I just don't trust the players to see a game out. And I think when you combine all of those things, it's a recipe for disaster. We got back in the game against West Ham, threw it away again. Mistake. We turn it around against Burnley, and even at 2-2, you say, well, keep it at 2-2. We'll take the point. We'll keep the gap. Let's move on to Saturday. And even then, how many mistakes in the build-up to the third goal, from the Kenny shot to the Pickford slicing the ball out for the throw-in, to then Ben Godfrey mis-hitting the ball. And it's just so many things are going wrong when it's, people say, oh, we've been unlucky. Well, for me, there's only so many times you can say it's bad luck when it actually comes down to poor quality on the pitch. And a lot of things from quality, confidence, concentration, they're all combining to cause a huge problem for ourselves at this moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, I thought 2-1, Everton, as I said, had done the hard work. I thought Richarlison took his 2 penalties well. Did you feel that he and maybe Anthony Gordon were the 2 bright sparks of the Burnley game last night?
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Gordon's probably been the bright spark for the majority of the season, to be honest. He's taken his chance. He looked very leggy last night with about sort of 25 to go, and at one point he couldn't even track back, which I noticed, and no wonder Damari Gray came on form at that particular point. Richarlison, yeah, he's been inconsistent this season, but obviously last night he was definitely up for it. Could have scored 4 on a different day. And we know Richarlison's quality. He quite often cuts a frustrated figure for those who don't watch him week in, week out, but that's because he's a winner. The lad wants to score goals. He wants to contribute. And at times, the service isn't there for him. When he plays central, he's isolated. But he was involved in the game a lot last night, and a lot was coming down his side when he was getting himself involved. He was coming in central as well. So he was certainly one positive. Anthony Gordon, as I say, has been a positive for quite a while. You look at the rest of them. I mean, Dominic Calvert-Lewin looks a shell of the player, that we were seeing last season. He's had, massive injury issues, but a lot of talk of whether his head's been turned by interest from Arsenal, which, apparently that's cooled, according to, I think it was the Telegraph this morning. So a lot of problems, players who we relied on last season, that we can't this season. You know, we look at we sold our left back Luca Dean because he fell out with the manager, and then the manager gets sacked. We sold our most creative player in James Rodriguez, you know, because he didn't get on with the manager. You know, you take out obviously Gylfi Sigurdsson, just not part of the squad this season, so another creative body as well. So there's a lot of issues there in terms of creating chances for our forward players as well. So a lot of pressure is falling to the likes of Anthony Gordon and Richarlison to sort of pull us through, I think, certain games, and that shouldn't be the case. You know, the senior players should be stepping up and trying to lead that side, and you know, the senior players for me, for want of a better phrase, are being found wanting for the majority of the season.
Does this come back on to one key word, Mike? Leadership. Is that something that Everton have really struggled with this season? Just a lack of leadership?
We've lacked leaders for many, many years. We've discussed this many times in terms of, you know, who are the leaders in that dressing room, who should be stepping forward and pulling that side through. And, you know, Seamus Coleman, he's a decent captain. He's fairly vocal, but does he inspire confidence in players? Probably gives them inspires a bit of respect because of the time he's been at the club. But in terms of confidence and leadership, probably hasn't quite got it. You know, even like Phil Jagielka, for me, he was a good centre half, underrated, but as a captain, probably not. Our best captain in recent times has been Phil Neville, and people can argue all they want about his qualities, but his qualities as a leader were unmatched. But he was surrounded by leaders as well. He was surrounded by your Tim Cahill's, by Mikel Arteta's, people, you know, Sylvain Distan's, people like that who, you know, we don't just need one captain on the pitch. You need a good 5, 6 or 7 captains on the pitch at any given time. We had that under David Moyes. When he went, that went away a little bit. And I don't think when we've, you know, the mistakes we've made in the transfer market in terms of ability is one thing. We've made huge mistakes in not bringing in players of a certain mentality and who are leaders.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one player that I always thought might take on that leadership role would have been Jordan Pickford, the goalkeeper, who, you know, is England #1 as things currently are standing. You know, he's been very consistent internationally, but even he's having a little bit of an up and down season.
I think that there's a misconception with Jordan Pickford in terms of his form for Everton. I mean, I'm not sure that people questioned, I think, him last night from the corner that led to the first goal. I mean, I'm not going to put that on Jordan Pickford. I think Jordan Pickford, and as the majority of Everton fans, has been our most consistent player for the last 18 months, someone who has matured. He's made the odd mistake, but show me a goalkeeper who hasn't in that time. Goalkeepers do it all the time. And I always say it, if you make a mistake as a goalkeeper, it generally leads to a goal. That's why it gets highlighted. Jordan Pickford is more in the spotlight because he's England #1. The media darling this season obviously is Ramsdale at Arsenal, and sort of pushing that agenda. So anytime Jordan Pickford, you know, makes any kind of error, then it's quite heavily magnified, I think. But I think he's been consistent for us. Do we see him as a leader? Again, you know, he's got the personality to be a leader, but I think it's hard as a goalkeeper, you know, because okay, you can see the whole pitch, but to communicate with the whole pitch is a different matter. I think he should be one of the leaders in that side, but I think players you should be looking towards, like some Michael Keane, Fabian Delph, who's never fit, and he was brought into for that role to be a presence in the dressing room, as someone who's obviously had success at Manchester City. Obviously, Seamus Coleman is one. I'll be looking at the likes of Alan as another example. He should be. The Corey should be. And for me, a lot of them just sort of shrink away from that responsibility. And that's a problem. No one wants to take responsibility on the pitch. And that's another problem that we've got. That's not going to be rectified this season because it needs to be a change of personnel. But the players need to start to show some kind of backbone and stand up, to be honest.
You mentioned earlier on that key moments and decision-making have cost Everton in games this season. And one of the games that I watched recently was that West Ham game, that red card for Michael Keane in the game. And you mentioned about the goal you conceded. But, you know, it's moments like that that could be the difference between staying up and ending up in the Championship.
There's too many of those decisions, though. The West Ham game again, Mason Holgate's stupid tackle, which led to the free kick that he scored from. There was no need to make that tackle. Michael Keane's, he's on a yellow card, dives in again. Antonio's not going to go anywhere because he's surrounded by 3 players, so why make the tackle? That kind of thing. But then you also go down the other end where you look at how many things have gone against us as well. The handball against Man City, blatant. There's no excuse for getting that wrong as officials.
I would agree with that.
That's one thing. Alam being sent off against Newcastle, pathetic. It's a yellow card. It was booked. It was dealt with. There's absolutely no issue at all. At Brentford penalty, Rondon was pulled down again. That's a Stonewall penalty. Southampton handball, Stonewall penalty. Shelby should have been sent off against Everton at St James's Park for a poor tackle.
That was Lampard's first game in charge, wasn't it? That match.
It was his first away game. That's right. Yeah. So the issues that we've had, a lot of them are our own fault. But if you look at the things that have gone against us in terms of officiating, I think it's been absolutely incredible how poor that's been this season, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you're down the bottom, you need that little bit of luck, don't you? You need decisions like that to go your way. And when you're down there, you often don't get them. I want to try and find some form of positive going into this match for you as an Everton fan looking into this game, Mike. I mean, obviously United this weekend. United not exactly in the greatest of form themselves. Is this in some ways a bit of an opportunity for Everton to get on the bike and maybe get an unlikely result this weekend?
I think this is a game I looked at even before Burnley. And I feared the Burnley game more than this game, to be honest. And that's not to say that United are a better side than Burnley. Of course they are. But I think that we tend to raise our game in these situations as fans. We can have much more of an impact as well at Goodison Park. We've been exceptional in recent weeks in terms of creating a great atmosphere and making it difficult for the opposition team. So we can make a difference as a fan base on Saturday. The only downside is it's 12:30, which is a really poor kick-off time. And you tend to see atmospheres being quite subdued when matches are at that particular time. But yeah, there's opportunities there. Of course it is. We've got to get this out of our mind and quickly. We said the same about West Ham. We've seen improvements. We scored a few goals. We in adversity we've turned things around in those games in a sense, but we haven't had the solidity to see those games out and pick up points because where we could have really got 4 points from 2 games, we're standing there with no points from 2 games, and that's the difference. But United are coming probably with not fully confidence. A few issues surrounding Ronaldo and his relationship with the manager. Not firing on all cylinders, but the quality that United have got on any given day, they can turn it on. And it's night and day. You can look poor one week and look exceptional the week after. So it all depends what United side sends on the Goodison Park on Saturday. I
mean, I'll give you a little bit of a positive one here because the last time Everton beat Manchester United was in 2019 and they won it 4-0. I don't know if you remember that game at all. It was not a pleasant sight for United fans that day. But just let's look at the most recent head-to-head match at Old Trafford. It finished 1-1. Obviously, the man who scored in the game for Manchester United is no, at the moment at least, at the club. Anthony Martial away out on loan. You mentioned Andros Townsend getting that equaliser. But I watched that game and I thought Everton played really well in that match. And, they were only denied the win by a VAR decision to rule out Yerry Mina's winner, or at the time would have been the winner.
Yeah, good performance, at the start of the season. As I say, we were a different side. We played well on the counter. I mean, look at that goal was on the counter attack. Damari Gray picked up with the core to Andros Townsend. So it was a good goal. And like you say, that chance at the end, which was ruled off. I mean, it was quite comfortably offside in the end, but he should have really held the line, or Tom Davies should have took the shot himself, and it would have been a different kettle of fish. But it just shows you how quickly football can change, and we've gone from feeling pretty positive at that point in the season to where we are now, and so much has gone on. So many issues that we've had have occurred in that time, and it's amazing that we find ourselves where we do. And if this is an advert for a side that is, people say about a side being too good to go down. Pretty much no side outside those probably top 6 places are too good to go down. you go into a bad run of form, even if you've got quality in that squad, it's very, very difficult to get out of it. And that's why, sorry.
No, good.
And that's why I think, you know, the odds of tumble, I think we're evens now along with Burnley to go down, and I think they're about right. I think they're about right, and there's no excuse in the fact that, you know, we've been the worst team, I think, in Europe's top leagues since the middle of October, and that tells its own story.
I don't know about the majority of people that are tuning in or watching this back later on, but I just cannot imagine a Premier League without Everton in the top flight. I just can't. I mean, I've been born since 91, and all I remember kind of following English football is Everton being a Premier League club. And, you know, the extraordinary thing is they may not be at the end of the season, which just seems quite extraordinary to me. I mean, one of the games most recently that I'm sure Everton will look back on and hope that they could get some form of a boost of that was that late 1-0 win against Newcastle, a massive, massive goal that Iwobi scored in stoppage time.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to put on something, some kind of positive, you know, from Goodison Park in recent weeks, and that's the one. You know, a game where we faced huge adversity with an appalling VAR decision or refereeing decision to send Alan off. A game that wasn't full of much quality from either side, to be perfectly honest. Newcastle was just probably that bit better because they'd hit a little bit of form, showed a bit more organisation, but the quality wasn't really there. But, you know, the one moment of excellence in the game was the goal. And it's, you know, I mean, I was there and the atmosphere was absolutely sensational. You know, when that goal goes in, you know, you find yourself looking to the skies and thanking whatever God you pray to. You know, the fact that something positive has happened, and we thought that might have been a catalyst for us to turn the season around.
Well, I thought it was going to be, and then after that, you know, you play Palace in the cup and get absolutely thumped, which I must admit surprised me a wee bit.
Again, you know, a game where we started very well. 25 minutes in, you know, we've been a much better side. We were on top. We were putting them under immense pressure as an attacking team. You know, we were, every time they got the ball, they couldn't get out. So when they did get out, it was coming straight back to them. So again, bizarre where, you know, Andros Townsend gets injured and that seems to slow the momentum of the game. And it seemed to change things from then. They get the goal and never look back. And, you know, I wasn't too concerned about it, to be fair, because our concern was staying in the Premier League. But then you then go to West Ham, you get nothing. You then go to Burnley in a game that you dare not lose, and you lose it after winning 2-1. So, you know, you look at a lot of the signs, and a lot of the signs are pointing towards Everton are going to be relegated. And, you know, it's sad to admit, and I don't think really we've probably processed that as much as Everton fans have say, you know, we've accepted it, our fate now. You never accept it until it's official, and we've never been in this position in the recent Premier League years. You know, we go back to 94, 98, those years, and how difficult they were. I was only young. I remember I went to the Wimbledon game, so I remember the situations, and I remember a bit about how it felt. But it's not a patch on what it feels when you know, I'm a 37-year-old man who's been supporting them all my life. It feels a hell of a lot worse now, thinking what could happen, where we could go. And the fact that if we do drop out of the Premier League, I think you won't be seeing Everton in the top flight for a number of years.
Is there a danger that Everton potentially could end up like a Nottingham Forest and just remain in the Championship for quite a few years?
Forest, Sunderland, Sheffield Wednesday, all these sides who you know, historically over the years have had many successful years in the top flight, and you know, we'd be the biggest casualty in Premier League history. Make no mistake about it. And you know, I think that the media love it. The media are thriving on this situation. They can't wait for us to be relegated. That's the honest truth. I'm sure there's some teams as well who aren't too happy with our financial situation and the fact that we are probably going to be fined by the Premier League, but we won't be facing any kind of points deduction because we've been in communication with them for about 18 months about where we currently stand. And I think a lot of teams probably want to see us drop as well. So I think a lot of things are going against us, and the only people who can rectify it and you can change it are the manager and the players.
I mean, this weekend Burnley are at Norwich, and if results go against Everton, they could be in the bottom three. Is relegation for you a reality that potentially might happen if that happens come the end of the weekend's action?
Yeah, I think psychologically, if we drop into the bottom three at this point, it's going to take a lot for those players to get over that and look past it and get out of the bottom three. As you say, it's Norwich, Burnley. I think then the weekend after, I think it's Burnley, Watford.
That's right.
So we haven't got a game the weekend after because Liverpool, we should have been playing in the semi-final of the cup. So we've got a 10-day gap between Man U and Leicester.
Burnley's at West Ham. Sorry, Burnley's at West Ham.
Oh, sorry, West Ham.
Yeah,
another Watford game is around the corner, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's one of the last games.
Yeah, so there's games there where teams are playing each other. Watford haven't got an easy run in. Burnley's is a lot easier on paper than ours. Ours obviously looks really difficult with your United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal all in the mix. Leicester twice, Crystal Palace, Brentford. It's not an easy end to the season, but we've got to believe that we can get something. And I hate I've been saying this for quite a while. We can't just be dependent on our home form because it puts so much pressure on those home fixtures. But looking at things now, the sides who have come to Goodison, Man United, Chelsea, Leicester, Crystal Palace and Brentford. You got to look at those games, and they're your points. They're your points there, right there. Because your away games, Liverpool's a write-off straight away, and that might be negative, but we ain't going to go there and win. That's just not going to happen. Arsenal last game of the season, Champions League potentially on the table. They won't be losing that. Watford away, difficult game, and Leicester away. So our away form has been so poor. You've got to look at those 4 games and think Everton aren't going to get anything from them, and that's where the games we've got, the 5 home games that we've got coming up. You've got to sort of say, well, we need 10 points, 11 points.
Yeah, and coming into the game this weekend, where can Everton take heart from that and try and get at United and maybe get a result that would certainly help them in terms of getting out of trouble? Where are Everton likely or most likely you feel to go get a result and hurt United, do you feel?
It's solely for me an application. You've got to apply yourself correctly. You've got to be switched on. You've got to literally leave it all out on the pitch. And it sounds very, very sort of cliche to say that, but it's the basics of football. And the basics of football are what we've lacked in many, many games. Newcastle, we didn't. We applied ourselves, I thought, pretty well. The fans applied themselves exceptionally well. And that was what got us through that particular fixture. So it doesn't matter if it's Newcastle, if it's Man United, if it's Chelsea. If you put any side in an atmosphere, which is difficult, and in a game where they're against an opposition who has shown that they want the game and they're going to put you under pressure, teams will fold, teams will make mistakes. And it's for us to do that. We haven't got the quality of Manchester United, but you've got to win your individual battles. And if that means you lay one on someone early doors and let them know who they're up against, and you do it. And they're the things which we just haven't got right. The battle, the half of the battle just hasn't been there, and that's the concern. As fans, we're relying on these players to get us out of a massive hole. Now, to 90% of those players, it doesn't really matter because they'll move on. If we go down, they will move on. Now, it matters to Anthony Gordon. It matters to Seamus Coleman.
Nathan Patterson, who's injured at the moment, I think he'll come into his own when he gets a chance, I feel.
Yeah, the sad thing with Nathan Patterson is he was going to get his chance against West Ham and obviously turned his ankle. He's got a minor operation this week. So he's done for the season, which is a real shame. So, yeah, he will, I'm sure, he might be thinking, who was signed for here? He's been given half a game against Boreham Wood in the Cup, and that's been it. So, yeah, he's certainly one for the future and one that we can look at. But a vast majority of those players will be gone. And as I say, players nowadays, that modern footballer, don't become attached to football clubs. They're not fans. It's not their club. The odd one does. But at the end of the day, it's a job. It's the job. So all they'll do is they'll move on to and go and work elsewhere. And that's the sad reality of modern football.
You're talking about players there. If we get to the end of the season and Everton do go down, does Frank stay?
I think so. For me, yeah. I think, someone who's working the Championship, I think that you would certainly let him start the season off. I think we we've got to get over those days where we're just firing managers left, right, and centre. You've got to be cleverer. I mean, you've brought in a new director of football, in Kevin Thirlwell. So he's someone who will look to, I'm sure, want to work with Frank Lampard and build a side and a structure, and get some kind of system in place over the next few years. So I think we'd be stupid to be sacking a manager again. I think a lot of the issues, as I say, a lot of the players that are there are an issue in terms of the quality and maybe attitude as well. So I wouldn't be sacking the manager. I think that's not the way that we should be going.
I mean, I mentioned Richarlison at the start of the show because he scored the 2 goals, and we've mentioned Anthony Gordon. Are they the 2 players you're looking at for this game against United on Saturday, thinking they're our best chance of getting something out of the game? Or are there others that could play a bit of an impact? Because, you know, I look at someone like Alex Iwobi, I kind of question what he gives to that team. I look at Doucouré, a guy who's been playing for Watford in a team that's been struggling down the bottom of the table. He should be one of the bigger characters in that team, but it's not happened for him either. And then I look defensive, and I think United could get at that defense. Is that something that would concern you?
Defensively, that's our biggest concern. I mean, we've been missing our best centre half for the majority of the season in Yerry Mina. Every time he comes back, he breaks down. I don't think he's going to be making the game Saturday. He's probably going to be back for Leicester. And you've then got obviously issues at left back. You know, Mikalenko's come in, and with the best will in the world, not an ideal situation for him. And people will always look at Luca Dean and see the differences between the two. He's not an attacking left back. Every time he gets forward, you know, his crossing's not great, and he looks to go back. And it's not having a pop at him. It's the fact he's a different kind of defender and wing back or full back than Luca Dean. And then, you know, the middle of midfield, which ultimately protects our back four. We've had issues there. I mean, obviously, Donny van der Beek can't play. I mean, he's had a little niggle anyway, but he can't play against yourselves. Obviously, Alan's back from his suspension, which is big for us, which is good. Doucouré's been poor because he's probably playing a bit deeper, but he's also going through Ramadan as well, which is, you know, it's difficult for him as well while he's fasting. So his energy levels aren't quite where they normally are. So the biggest concern for us is keeping a clean sheet. You know, that's the biggest concern. We can do it. We just don't do it often enough. You know, we did it against Newcastle. But
did it against Leeds as well. I think that was the other big win you had at home, 3-0 against Leeds.
Yeah, you know, it was early on in Frank's reign, and we started off well under Frank Lampard, and we were playing high energy football. We were always on top, never really threatened by Leeds. You know, we had a couple of pot shots out, you know, about 25, 30 yards out, but you know, that was a game early on when you really lifted the fans and the players. But in terms of obviously United, you know, when I'm sure Ronaldo will be fit for the game, he'll come back in. Obviously, the likes of Bruno likes a goal against us. Sancho's a threat. As much as Rashford's not going through a great time at this moment in time, he's still a threat. You know, he's quick, he's strong. Players that we hate because, you know, every team hates players that are quick, and Everton more so than anyone else. We struggle with pace, so we know we're going to be up against it. But as I say, the players have got to apply themselves and ensure that when they step out onto the pitch at 12 on Saturday afternoon, they're fully switched on and they're ready to engage in what's going to be a difficult game.
It's certainly going to be an interesting game. The game is live on BT Sport, and I'm sure many United fans on the channel and Everton supporters as well will be tuning in and hoping for a positive result. What would be a positive result for you, Mike, on Saturday? Would a point, obviously getting 3 points would be massive, but if you even took a point from the game, would that be a plus?
It'd help. You know, it'd help. I think you got to be looking at 3 though. We've got to be, because you know we can get a point. And that puts us obviously 2 points above the relegation zone for a short period of time. But then you know what's coming on the Sunday when you've got Norwich against Burnley. So you're looking there for probably a Norwich win more than anything else, to be honest. That would help us more. So for me, to keep ourselves above water and psychologically out of that bottom 3, we've got to win the game. We've put ourselves in this situation. If we win last night, then you go, well, okay, we get a draw against United, would be okay. But we didn't. So we threw away another game where we should have really got points, and we put ourselves under more pressure. So I think for me, the only thing really that we can say would be positive would be 3 points, because teams that are around the corner, it's going to be really difficult for us.
Yeah, I've got to ask you, because this is the opposition preview. It's always good to get opposition fans' views on this. Obviously, you're seeing the situation at Manchester United. It looks like Erik ten Hag is looking likely to be the next manager of Manchester United, although it is not confirmed as yet. What's your feeling as an outsider looking at as to what is going on at Manchester United?
You're probably one step away from Everton, to be honest with you, in terms of how you conduct yourselves. But obviously, different kind of situation, of course. We're talking about two different clubs, and you've had different levels of success in recent times. But it's since obviously Alex Ferguson left, United have been trying to find the next sort of saviour and the next sort of king of Old Trafford, if you like. And obviously, you brought in David Moyes. He was the one who. He was certainly, he was the mainstay at Goodison Park and was great for us in terms of stability. You've gone through so many managers from a David Moyes, even still at that point, an upcoming manager, to Jose Mourinho, to Louis van Gaal. You've gone through a whole range of managers to try and find what you actually want. I think that you probably just lack a bit of direction, like us. We lack a lot of direction. You're not quite sure, I don't think, where you want to go and what you want your identity to be. Ten Hag will be a good appointment, of course. He's done good things over with Ajax. But again, like ourselves, you've got to give the man time. You've got to give him time to get it right. Don't expect big things too soon. I'm sure he'd be quite keen to ship out certain players. I think Ronaldo will be out on his way in the summer, to be honest. I think he's a little bit of as good as he is, and I'm sure he's going to cause us a lot of problems come Saturday. I think that he's a distraction probably for a lot of the other players as well. And I think there's a few issues behind the scenes between him and other players and things like that. And what a player he's been. But I think now United probably need to move on from him, find a new identity, to then take the club forward. But Ten Hag is probably going to be a decent way to go. If I'm honest, I think it'll be a good appointment.
It's certainly going to be very interesting to see what happens. I mean, that story will run and hopefully very soon it will come to a conclusion from a Manchester United perspective, and it'll be interesting to see if that is announced in the coming days. Mike, thanks for coming on All for United. Cards to the table time, because it's the last part of the show. Give us a score prediction for the game on Saturday.
I'll go 2-2. We will 2-2. Yeah, 2-2. We will not get a clean sheet. There's no way that's going to happen. But I think that we will still cause you a few issues, because we've still got in an attacking sense. There's still quality in that side. It's just about bringing that quality out in the day. So I think 2-2.
2-2. I think United might nick it. I think it'll be 2-1. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Just a quick one, because we have been getting a couple of comments on here. Jarvis Cocker is a massive supporter of the channel. He agrees with you, Mike. He says Ronaldo is the past, not the way forward. And I think on that bombshell from Jarvis, we'll bring this live stream to an end. Thanks very much for tuning in to the opposition preview here on All for United. Please remember to like and subscribe. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and other social media platforms. Mike, thanks for coming on to chat about the game. Where can people find you, the Unholy Trinity Everton podcast, and your other socials?
Yeah, so we're on obviously the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, or Apple stores. There's now Google, or Podbean, all those platforms. We're on Twitter is @UHT Podcast, Instagram @UHT Podcast Everton, and also on Facebook as well. I
thought UHT might have been in connection to a Father Ted reference, but we'll leave that for another time. Thanks everybody for tuning into the show. All the very best. We have a lot of really great upcoming content on All for United within the next few days, so do keep it here for Passionate Reds views. I'm sure they will be entertaining. But for me, Grant, and Mike, my guest, thanks for tuning in to the opposition preview, and we shall see you next time. All the very best to you.